Towards the northwest, there will be some rain at times, drier towards the southeast and warm too.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
there are people trying to sow division in our communities. People taking the red and white of our flag, but they want to take it with them as they throw bricks at businesses.
Keir Starmer makes St George's Day all about the far right.
It means to be English. We stand up for what we believe in, even when it's not easy. And as we witness the rise of populism and prejudice around the world.
Sadiq Khan makes it about Ukraine, refugees, trans and diversity, whereas Robert Jenrick, on the other hand...
Happy St George's Day. England is a great nation, a great people.
The hills, we shall never surrender.
This realm
of the Queen's coronation.
They think it's all over. It is. Spot on. And he wasn't the only Tory having a good day.
Truth is, he doesn't have the balls.
Oh, Kemi found Starmer's weak spot. Women. Also tonight... So illegal migrant gang warfare is coming across the English Channel. Plus... a massive betrayal of our brave veterans. They could face prosecution now while the IRA walk free. And...
Let's do it for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. It's about time we globalise the Intifada.
I've got a big expose for you. Militant hard-left pro-Palestine teachers exposed for trying to radicalise your children.
He went up there and he was coming back down towards us and he goes, run, he's got a gun.
Yeah, and against my better judgment, I'll be joined live by the two Australian twins who've become international sensations. On my panel this evening, we've got the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, pub landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster, Nina Mishkov. And should these people...
I'm plus size and on a plane, of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways.
...be made to pay for 2 plane tickets. Get ready, Britain, here we go! I expose the dangerous radicals indoctrinating your kids. Next.
Patrick, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories: intergang rivalries have led to an alarming rise in migrant violence as 8 illegal immigrants have arrived in the UK with stab wounds in the last 12 months. The tensions come as thousands of migrants prepare for a huge summer surge in small boat crossings. Just this week, 1 migrant was stabbed to death and 2 others seriously injured in separate incidents around Calais. One senior maritime security source told GBNews the increase in violence is extremely concerning. The UK government's borrowing soared to almost £152 billion last year, the second highest in a decade. New ONS figures reveal that's £14.6 billion more than predicted, piling the pressure on already stretched public finances. Economists say the country ended the year on a poor footing, while now hurtling towards further challenges with US President Donald Trump's trade tariffs. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has warned of a changing world and President Trump for the UK exceeding borrowing expectations.
The world has changed and we can see that all around us. And what the UK is able to offer is political, financial, economic stability in a world that is very volatile at the moment. I think that is a huge plus for the UK, and we are open as a country for business, trade and investment. And we've taken on board, as a new government, less than a year in, the feedback from businesses, both domestic and international investors, about the things that hold back investment or delay investment.
In other news, the Prime Minister has accused Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch of being a spectator, not a leader, on women's rights this afternoon, before saying it was time to lower the temperature on the trans debate. It follows a Supreme Court ruling defining a woman as an adult human female based on biological sex. The Prime Minister, who once said trans women are women, now says the ruling brings clarity. This afternoon, Badenoch urged him to apologise to ex-Labour MP Rosie Duffield, calling her very brave for speaking out on the issue before leaving the party.
He tells people what they want to hear. He only tells people what they want to hear. He is a weather vane who twists in the wind. He cheered an ideology that denied safe spaces to women and girls because he thought it was cool to do so. He hounded a brave female MP out of his party for telling the truth he accepts now. And now he is hiding behind the Supreme Court judgment. And isn't that because he doesn't know what he actually believes?
And around 20,000 people have paid tribute to Pope Francis in less than 12 hours since his body went on public view in St. Peter's Basilica. It lies in state ahead of his funeral on Saturday. Mourners flocked to see the late pontiff after his body was moved this morning from his residence at Casa Santa Marta. Huge crowds gathered throughout the day as a lengthy queue snaked its way through St. Peter's Square all the way to the holy door of the basilica. Prince William will be attending the funeral on Saturday, marking his first time representing the monarch at a global funeral. He'll be joined by world leaders, including the Prime Minister Keir Starmer and US President Donald Trump. If you're watching us on television now, you're seeing live pictures from outside St. Peter's Basilica, where mourners have been gathering all day. The Vatican expects up to 250,000 mourners at the service for the People's Pope. The Pope passed away on Monday after suffering double pneumonia. He was 88. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Pro-Palestine teachers are pumping their warped views into your children's brains, and it's just got even worse. Kids have had their brains warped with trans nonsense, critical race theory, the demonising of the British Empire. They've been used to advertise Wales to illegal migrants, but now a maths teacher standing for election to the National Education Union's governing body declared that she has introduced solidarity actions in West London schools in support of Palestine. He declined to say exactly what those actions are. Teachers have reposted hard left articles on social media justifying Hamas's October 7 terror attacks, saying, quotes, "The Palestinian people have every right to respond in any way they choose to the violence that the Israeli state metes out to them every day." A religious education teacher in southwest London has just been revealed to have called the Hamas atrocity a, quote, "justified act of resistance," and wrote that Hamas had, quote, "committed no crime." So this is all according to a bombshell investigation that's been released today by the Daily Mail. Nazia Abbasi, a primary school teacher, posted an anti-Semitic mural of Jewish bankers playing Monopoly on the backs of the poor, and also share conspiracy theories about Mossad being responsible for 9/11. Here's a picture, allegedly, of Sajia Iqbal, the NEU's former president, in Redbridge, and a teacher, supposedly, at Beale High School, clearing the shelves of a Sainsbury's store of Israeli food as part of the Palestinian Solidarity campaign's Don't Buy Apartheid campaign. In Norwich, Andrea Abiensing, when she's not teaching science, by the way, at Northgate High School, she's actually chairing Norfolk's branch of the far-left Palestine Solidarity campaign. In January, she organised a protest against 3 Israeli competitors taking part in the World Indoor Bowls Championship. So she's tell you what, if Netanyahu doesn't listen to that, then there's no hope, is there? But anyway, that was being held in Great Yarmouth. So again, massive impact there on the Gaza Strip. She says that she does not push her political views on her students, as that is not part of her role as a teacher. These people are teaching your kids, and they're just some of the people that we know about. But the rock goes right to the top. The head of the NEU is a chap called Daniel Kebede. So he's only in this position of power because he managed to secure 28,000 votes on a 9% turnout. Yeah, so there are viruses with a higher popularity rating than this guy, all right? He's said that the education system is institutionally racist, he's a Marxist by the looks of things, and he wants to globalise the Intifada.
Let's do it for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. It's about time we globalise the Intifada!
Or you could teach people maths and English. Oh, I don't know, maybe. And you know how I said that it's just got a bit worse? Yeah? Here's how. So a Jeremy Corbyn ally with absolutely no teaching experience whatsoever. No teaching experience. He's called Matt Rack, and he's somehow just been elected leader of the other main teaching union, the NAS-UWT. So it's been reported that he was apparently once a member of the Trotskyist Socialist Party. He's accused of not taking anti-Semitism seriously during the Corbyn years, and he might look to merge those two teaching unions, which would create one unified cabal of radical trots. Is it a coincidence that Labour wants to make it harder to send your kid to a private school? Do you think that maybe they just want every child to be under the thumb of the hard left from a young age? It's no wonder, is it, that homeschooling is on the rise. So, GB News approached Nazia Abbasi, Matt Milovanovic, Andrea Abiyasingi and Shajia Iqbal for comment. None of them responded. I don't know, maybe they were busy interrupting a bowls tournament in Great Yarmouth again. But a spokesperson for the National Education Union, again, which is run by Daniel Kebede, our mate there, said the NEU condemns anti-Semitism and has a proud history of combating all forms of racism. As a union of 500,000 members, our members will hold many different political and personal opinions, as is to be expected in a democracy. Taking part in activities or political meetings in their own time is therefore inevitable and well within their right. The important issue is that when in the classroom, the teacher's professional code of conduct is upheld, and teachers are impartial when speaking to students formally or informally. Well, we'll have to see about that, won't we? Let's get thoughts of my wonderful panel this evening. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. So, Mark, how big a problem do you think this is?
It's pretty serious, isn't it? I mean, there are a range of different stories that you've covered there. I have some moderate sympathy with the NEU statement. I mean, I think teachers are allowed to be politically active outside of the classrooms. You know, they're not civil servants. They can run for Parliament. They can have their own views. I remember back to when I was studying A-levels, I think by about that time teachers would profess, look, I'm coming at this from a left-wing angle or a conservative angle, but they would always give me the other side of the case as well. My politics teacher was very conservative, my economics teacher was very left-wing, but they'd say, well, that'd be my approach, but others might say this. I'm not at all confident that any of these people are ensuring that their students know the pro-Israel story at all. And if you are not impartial in the classroom, you need to be struck off. Simple as that. So you would
strike these people off if there's any evidence whatsoever of them being...
breaching impartiality. If you're egregiously breaching impartiality, you need to be struck off, yeah.
What do you make of this? I mean, the other side of it, so you've got those quite militant activists who, one of them is a primary school teacher, you know, I mean, saying some really, really spicy stuff there about, you know, Mossad being responsible for 9/11 and all of this stuff. So teaching very young kids, whether or not she says that in the classroom, we don't know, but we're not there in the classroom, are we? The other aspect of it is these union leaders, zero teaching experience, just hard left radical trot.
Look, we know from past experience that these unions are made up of ex-communists, you know, Marxists and far left. Last year, I went on an anti-fascism march, not for me, but to interview some of the people there and get their side of the story. There was teachers' unions there amongst Antifa, who for me is a low-level terrorist group, in my opinion. And then next to communist flags, you know, an ideology that is responsible for 100 million deaths. So I think we've got a big problem with the far left and some of this mob in our classrooms.
Yeah, and Nina, I would say that by making it harder and harder and harder to send children to private schools, and by also introducing a load of other things like some of these breakfast clubs, which, by the way, are not free because we are all paying for them, right? Then you are keeping children in the state sector and keeping them in there for longer, and that means that they are more likely to be at the mercy of the radical hard left.
That's a pretty extreme equation, for heaven's sake, Patrick. You know, you've gone like that with just one fact. First of all, I completely agree. Children should not be indoctrinated. My mother was a Scottish school teacher, a lifelong Scottish school teacher, and you know, you just do not talk politics. Well, hopefully you don't talk religion. But then we have faith schools, which I don't actually believe in. I think all schools should be secular. Having said that, you have no proof that these people are indoctrinating their pupils. There's absolutely no proof at all that there's been anything untoward that's gone on in a classroom. We have no proof at all. There's no hard facts. Added to which, ask yourself, what is being said in Jewish schools? What indoctrination, perhaps, is going on in Jewish schools? That's equally abhorrent, surely. We don't know that, do we?
You could say that about any faith school, I suppose, in a sense. But
we're talking about a Jewish school because we're talking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I suppose it's how much confidence you would have that bloke that we saw there wearing one of those Palestinian scarves, who is openly saying that he's got solidarity campaigns for pupils in his school, who is clearly, you know, massively to the left there, whether he just turns that off when he walks through the school gates.
Well, that's the concern, isn't it? So Nina has a point that, you know, we haven't got footage of what's being said in the classroom. But if I was the head of a school and one of my teachers was posting on Twitter that Mossad were responsible for 9/11, and the Hamas attacks on innocent Israelis were fine and dandy,
Yep,
I'd have some pretty big questions.
No crimes committed.
I would have some serious questions. I would say you are putting forward, not just some opinions here. I mean, some very, very extreme opinions. I would liken that to somebody putting forward, white supremacist views on Twitter. I would put them on a very, very tight leash for what they were teaching in the classroom. This isn't like just being pro-Israel or something. I mean, this is way off the extreme.
If someone did post something like a teacher was out there going, stop the boats, turn the boats around, we should shut down every migrant hotel and deport everyone. No. Right, there's no way. The NEU would be all over that like a rash.
Of course they would, because it is a left-wing group. At the end of the day, though, what chance have we got when our so-called state broadcaster, it is the BBC, let's be honest, has had to apologise something like 20 times for misreporting or putting out misinformation about the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, the problem with reporting on the situation in Gaza is that Israel will not allow journalists into British.
The data comes from Hamas.
Can I just add that? But that's a point worth making. Is that because of that, it's much more difficult to get to the heart of the matter because they cannot be on the ground. They're not allowed.
The audience also needs to remember that the BBC would not class Hamas as terrorists. I think they called them
freedom fighters.
The key thing
here, though, Adam, is you can switch off the BBC and switch to GB News, which you should do.
Exactly.
If you're a kid in the classroom, you can't reach for the remote control and switch off your teacher.
It's also not just about the pro-Palestine stuff. So this is the exposé today that, we've got confirmation now that several teachers in their spare time are going out and doing some pretty radical stuff in relation to Palestine. But you look at the guy, the Daniel Kabidi there, wants to, quote, decolonise the curriculum. It's pretty... I would argue there's a case to be made for the idea that this guy's pretty anti-British, OK? If he's the head of the largest teaching...
Why would you say decolonise? Why would you say that's anti-British?
The intifada, which is not great, right? So there's that. But if he's in charge of it, what else are kids being taught?
But the thing is, he has no control over the curriculum. He has no control over what a teacher says. Yes, he has no...
look up to teachers and adults.
And some teachers are better than others.
If you know that your teacher is doing this in their spare time, you're more inclined to be sort of affected by that or follow that.
How is a primary school child supposed to know that?
One thing I will say is that kids do follow current trends, current things. We see it with the BLM Marxist movement. Loads of students and kids were sort of pushed that way because they see adults in schools following that. And then you had, like, the trans ideology. It's the current thing. At the moment, just to say anything pro-Palestine is trendy. Let's not be let's
just stop for a moment. Let's just get real. What is going on in Palestine at the moment is an absolute humanitarian catastrophe.
And so was October the 7th, and
yes,
I've called both of
absolutely,
the reactions
I'm not decrying that. October the 7th was an absolutely obscene act of terrorism. However, but listen, what is going on in Palestine is a human...
But you don't look at Daniel Kabidi, do you?
No, hang on a minute. If you were Palestinian, you would look...
We're going to have to move on, I'm afraid. Yeah. OK, all right. So, I've got a lot more coming your way. It's a real chock-a-block show this evening, but, of course, I couldn't let you get going without telling you about the latest Great British Giveaway. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
We're making the Great British Giveaway a getaway with a chance to win our biggest prize to date. You could be the proud owner of this Elneg Baron 560 motorhome, worth over £67,000. Supplied brand new from Marquis Leisure, you could be exploring Great Britain and beyond this summer and making memories to last a lifetime. This motorhome comfortably sleeps 4, has its own kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comes complete with all of the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle of this calibre. And that's not all, as we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash so you can get started on your next adventure as soon as possible. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Call Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, big story this. SAS veterans, brave heroes, are terrified that they'll be dragged through the courts after the government started repealing legislation that granted them conditional amnesty. So, basically, the IRA, they walk free, scot-free, but British war heroes, they might be dragged through the court for stuff that they didn't even do. What's going on there? But first...
I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways.
Yeah, and you should have to pay for 2 seats as well. Forget paying extra for legroom and overweight luggage. Shouldn't fat flyers have to pay for 2 seats? Stay tuned.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. From 11, only on GB News.
So you began to lose the sight of one eye when you were a child. When did you begin to learn Braille?
So, back in the 80s, sight loss wasn't talked about. I was in the back of the classroom, blind in one eye, had the patches. Always wanted to be an artist, from day dot, as they say. And I did a degree in model making because I thought I'd get a skill base behind me because then I could do all the crazy stuff later. And I became a dental model maker. And around about 12 years ago, I noticed a dark shadow in my right eye, or left eye. Right, left and right is not very good for me. That was it. It was like, how do I want to be the artist I want to be as a 6-year-old? So about 6 years ago, my friend gave me a Perkins typewriter. Now, have you ever come across one of those before?
No, tell me about it.
So this machine has not changed since the 1950s. It's like an organ with 6 keys, because Braille is a mathematical language. So when you ever have a play on one, you can learn it really quickly. So I learnt Braille in 3 weeks because I saw it as a pattern.
How extraordinary. You learnt it in 3 weeks?
Yeah, because I didn't see it as a letter. Because as an artist, my brain is geared to, wired to patterns. So after 3 weeks, I was like, oh, why can't this be an art form? Just like a typewriter we use as a letter, I can use a dot. And for me, the dot has more power.
But that spells love in Braille, yes?
It does.
Take me through it then.
So the idea is iconic print, 1970s, LOVE. I've just Brailleised it. And then by giving it another colour, if I told everyone that this one is called bubblegum, I'm sure all at a certain age group would know a certain bubblegum brand that this inspired me. So the idea is I'm going to do loads of these, and just by changing that word, we'll have the colours. So I see colours through words as a blind person now.
Yes. Now, this is a very tactile piece.
Yes, you can touch
it. So in other words,
yes,
this is all in high relief, so my fingers are tracing this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So, coming up, I'm sorry to say this, but it does appear as though this government has abandoned our brave veterans. But first, should fat flyers pay for 2 seats? It's time now for the head-to-head. Well, the reason I'm asking this is because it's holiday season and this photo has resurfaced online of a man on a flight from Helsinki to Copenhagen struggling to fit into his seat. Airlines are being urged to change the rules for plus-size passengers and charge them for 2 seats. If you're listening on radio, I mean, he's just bulging over everything there, isn't he? A giant of a man in more ways than one. And someone has to sit next to that guy, right? Indeed, some existing additional charges on airlines, so this is what you would just have to pay, assuming you're not morbidly obese, right, is £12 for excess weight, that's your luggage. And if you wanted extra leg room, so you're too tall, you're paying an extra £7.99. And bring along an infant to sit on your lap, so you've procreated, you've got to take this thing with you, right, you've got to pay 25 quid. But some plus-size travellers, like the American social media star J. Lynn Chaney, have hit back at critics.
Plus size and on a plane. Of course I can't fit the tray table down. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I need a seatbelt extender.
I just wonder if she put more effort into losing weight than she did on TikTok. Like maybe she wouldn't have those issues. But tonight I am asking, should fat flyers be forced to pay for 2 seats? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say. Joining me to debate this is the former presenter of Fat Families, it's Steve Miller, and director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock. Thank you very much, both of you. Tremendous to have you on the show. I'm looking forward to this. Sarah, I'll start with you. Should fat flyers be made to pay for 2 seats?
Well, this is right. So Steve and I have had this conversation before. Basically, I think what we need to understand here is what obesity and what fat is. Because what we're making out here is that this is a choice and that somebody has chosen to live in a fat body. What we know is that obesity is a chronic condition, like something like diabetes, asthma, for instance. It's a chronic medical condition. For some people, it's not a choice. And so actually what you're doing is potentially saying that people living with a chronic condition should have to pay for that on a plane because of their size. And what I'm against is saying, well, no, because you wouldn't make someone with asthma pay extra money to sit on a plane. And I know it's different because physically it's not showing as a condition, but it's still a chronic condition. And so I think, no, what we need to do is get the aeroplane manufacturers to start making planes that are actually fit for purpose, because the population has grown. And so therefore we should be making, the environment fit that to some extent, not just pointing fingers.
Isn't this just caving into people's whims? It's like, all right, I get that some people have got genuine medical conditions, by the way, in which case they are the larger. However, yeah. Steve, tall people are made to pay. If you're too long, you have to pay. If you're too wide, you don't.
Let's use a little bit of common sense. Right, let's imagine Patrick has booked a weekend for himself and Emily. A nice, lovely break. He looks like he'd go to Benidorm. So let's say he's going to Benidorm, right? I get on the plane, he's all excited, they're sitting there, and I'm 24 stone. The reality of the world is everyone on that plane is suddenly thinking, oh, please no. Oh, please no, right? And guess what? I sit next to Patrick. And my body spills over and I become a tubby trespasser. Yeah, because my body is spilling over to Patrick's seat. I'm already ruining his holiday, and the holiday should start when you get to the airport. So actually, yes, I should pay for 2 seats or open my wallet there and then and give you half of the money if I'm taking half your seat up. The thing that I want to take issue with Sarah often says, obesity is this illness. It's all very depressing. I find it very depressing because she's saying basically if you're obese, there's not a lot you can do about it, really, by the sounds of it. Well, actually, the reality is you can. It is a lifestyle choice, no matter how much we wrap it up. We must give that message over to people, because otherwise you are disempowering people. I know Sarah wants to say to people, oh, well, you're fat, and that's possibly how you'll always be now, so you'll have to look at it, excuse me. So there is something we can do about it. Sarah will disagree. But
no, fair enough. Sarah, I find it a little bit annoying that if you have to pay for excess luggage weight, and you can be just a couple of kilos over or whatever, and you've got to pay extra. But then behind you, in the queue, might be someone who is like 30 stone, and they're not paying any extra. So why are we paying? If you come back off holiday and you've got a wet towel because you couldn't dry it off by the pool quick enough, and it means you're over the way, or you've got a few presents for your family or something like that, you're paying. But, 10-ton Tessie there, crack on.
But I'll probably bore you to death, but I will keep coming back to the fact that it's not a choice to live with a chronic condition, whereas actually it's a choice for you to bring those extra bits in your suitcase back and not dry your towel. Like that's where the difference is here. It is a chronic condition. The science and the evidence shows us this, that somebody, and this is how we can bluntly put it, somebody could sit there and eat like burgers all day long and stay living in a smaller body because of their genetics. Another person could do exactly the same thing and live in a much larger body because of their genetics. It isn't down to somebody's willpower, choice, etc.
I mean, it is a bit though, isn't it? Like, it is a bit. Like, if you exercise, are you telling me the lady that we just saw there, who, by the way, is very proud of her size and all this stuff, and I'm not, like, I know it's a fine line, isn't it, between pointing out the bleeding obvious and seeming like being mean. I don't want to seem like I'm being mean, but are you telling me that if she went for a jog and stopped eating as much as she does, she wouldn't lose weight?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that people living in larger bodies can't lose weight. What I'm saying is to sustain weight loss when you're living in, have lived in a larger body, that's a bit that's very complicated and something that's very impossible to do without support. So actually what I'm saying is, I'm not saying people can't, I've never said that people can't lose weight. Yeah. Everybody can lose weight. What they can't do is maintain that weight loss for a long period of time.
That's not true.
Go on, Steve.
That's absolutely not true at all, because if you've got the right strategies in place, and I agree with Sarah in terms of support, people do need support, I get that. But if you've got the right strategies in place and you get to know yourself in terms of, you know, the quantity of food that you can eat and the kinds of food you can eat, and live 80-20, 80% healthy, 20% a bit of what you fancy, it is sustainable. Yes, I think you've got a point that keeping it off is a challenge. I agree, but it is possible. And we, where we go wrong sometimes is we give out too much negative to people. We've got to empower people and encourage people to realise they've got to own their body, stop the moaning, realise they can go from a porker to a corker and from a pud to a stud. This is the messaging we need to give people, that positive messaging, rather than telling them, oh, well, you've lost it, but you'll probably put it all back on now.
All right, okay, we're gonna have to end it there, I'm afraid, but I would like to say a massive thank you. That is the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock, and as well the former presenter of Fat Family, Steve Miller. Just before I let you get going, they've gone. But I just want to say, Steve gave me some advice once, which was to eat cake naked. Because when you do that, you see your own body, right? And you think, maybe I don't need that extra slice of cake.
Shock tactic, Patrick, shock tactics.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it was a shock tactic, Steve, because it led to what Emily described as, quotes, the most disgusting thing she's ever seen. So there we go. Thank you. I just thought I'd leave you with that. All right, so who do you agree with? Should fat flyers be forced to pay for 2 seats? Lee emailed in, said, easy solution, combine baggage and passenger weight for air travel pricing. Yes, fine with that. I like that. Lee, you're a solutions man. Good. Apparently that's the only comment we got. So, coming up, I'll expose the immigration judge who moonlights as a barrister representing asylum seekers. You heard that right. An immigration judge who, in the spare time, represents illegal migrants. Bonkers, that's in a few minutes. But first, SAS veterans terrified they're going to be dragged back through the courts after this government started repealing legislation that granted them amnesty for things they might not have even done in the Troubles. Shocking, this, especially as we gear up for VE Day. Stay tuned.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's quite a mixed picture across southern Europe as we go through the next couple of days. Western parts mostly dry, but in the east we have some heavy, thundery rain. There's the risk of frequent lightning, some large hail, gusty winds, and rainfall totals of around 50 to 75 millimetres in just a few hours could cause some flooding. Like I said, though, further west, a lot of dry weather, and here it is going to stay mostly fine as we go through the next couple of days. In fact, across the Canary Islands, we're going to see our temperatures rising into the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
Questions include, do you relax in a drawing room or lounge? I think the answer's obvious there. Do you have a big flat screen TV? Yeah, I do, actually. And who did you cheer on in the boat race? Easy, Oxford, albeit unsuccessfully. That gives you an idea of where I stand, but let's quiz my panel, who will get points. And we all know that points make prizes. So, Lloyd, is it called a drawing room or a lounge?
A lounge.
A lounge. Tim, drawing room or a lounge?
Sitting room.
It's called a sitting room. So, well, I actually call it a winter parlour in some sense. So none of us get any points for calling it a drawing room. There's always an agreeable chill in my home. Tim, true or false?
Of your home, yes.
No, of yours. You've been to stay.
This is a very interesting one, and actually, yes, I think it's true.
Okay.
I think in my house it is true, because I've got wooden windows.
You've got 5 points. You're getting quite posh. Lloyd?
True. My office manager used to have to wear a coat when he came round to my house.
All right, following on with Lloyd, scrambled eggs are strictly for breakfast.
Oh, no, false.
False. You get another 5 points for that. You are quite posh. I get points for that as well, actually. Tim? Scrambled eggs?
No, not just for breakfast.
Not just for breakfast. We're a very posh team.
So it's not posh to think.
All right. I don't have a downstairs loo, Lloyd.
Well, I don't at the moment because it's under refurbishment.
But under normal circumstances?
Under normal circumstances, yes.
All right, so that gets you no points on that one. Tim?
Fans of Are You Being Served will know that the test for being low middle class is having a downstairs loo and being within walking distance of a mainline station, and I have both.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back, everybody. So as we build up to VE Day, I wanted to point out, I think, what a shocking betrayal of Britain's war heroes. So the Labour government is apparently moving to end legal immunity for soldiers involved in the Troubles. Now, this can have absolutely devastating consequences, where people who are now, by the way, quite old, right, can get a knock on the door one day and tried, not for the first time, for the second time, maybe even for the third time, having already been found not guilty of allegedly doing something in Northern Ireland. Well, the reality is the IRA walk away scot-free, don't they? And Britain's SAS heroes has tonight warned that they face being unjustly hounded over incidents that may or may not have occurred decades ago. Why on earth would the government want to do that? Joining me now is Falklands veteran who also served in Northern Ireland, Simon Weston. Simon, thank you so much. Great to have you on the show. Just explain to me your views on this, why you think it's a bad thing, if indeed you do.
Well, first and foremost, it's a bad thing because it's a betrayal. It's a betrayal of everything these men were promised when they joined the Special Forces, when they went to Northern Ireland, when they were ordered to go and do their job. They were sent there by politicians. They didn't just say they were going to volunteer to go to Northern Ireland. They were sent there to do their job. It strikes me that the potential of prosecuting the SAS for killing 4 young, heavily armed men who had just been to a police station in the back of a pickup truck, which provided them with armoured cover, and the machine gun they had in the back of that was unbelievable heavy caliber. and they just opened up in a police station with no concern at all for passers-by, for children, for anybody else that could have been murdered by these people. They went out with murderous intent. If you can tell me how they were going to put their hands up and say, please let me surrender, when they already had murderous intent in their heart. The IRA have been able to get away with so much. They've changed the narrative about what happened in Northern Ireland, unfortunately. They're making themselves out to be the victims. Yet they got away with so much. Look at the Omar bombing you're showing there. You know, if we're going to hound the SAS and any other service people who do these incredible things, you know, they put their lives on the line, but they do it at the behest of the government.
I just don't understand why you would repeal it, right? So people like Dennis Hutchins, who was, I believe, already found not guilty twice of murder, was 80 years old, in poor health, very poor health. He had numerous different health problems, heart failure, fluid on the lungs, kidney disease. He was hauled back through a court and died alone in a Belfast hospital, awaiting his third trial for something that he was adamant that he'd never done, and he'd previously been cleared off twice. This is where this ends up, practically speaking. Well, the IRA walk away scot-free. Why on earth would any government want to reintroduce this kind of behaviour?
Well, let's have a look at what behaviour has gone on under this current administration or people who follow them. You know, Mr. Khan in London allowed Palestinians with Palestinian Hamas supporters to drape their flags all over Whitehall. You know, where is that respect for the people of the British Isles? We're not even allowed to fly our flags. You know, English people have been told you're far right if you fly the cross of St. George. But all they're doing is showing patriotism, they're showing party spirit. You know, what is going wrong? What is going wrong? Are we going to then go after the SAS who went into the embassy, killed all those terrorists that were going to kill people? But they should have stopped to think about it and given them the opportunity to surrender. You know, these people that they kill don't have respect for other people's lives. And we've got to stop now. Do you want these people to save us or not? The politicians will gripe enough if these people do not come forward and protect them when they're going about their legal duties. But yet, they want to prosecute them for killing the people who want to kill them.
You're willing, and people like you, Simon, are willing to put everything on the line so that people like me can sit here and have a nice life, and that people out there can sit out there and have a nice life, and people can walk the streets, and we're not all speaking German, and we're not all doing whatever, you know. You are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, and I think that people should be much more grateful to people like yourself, Simon, and the idea that a government now... And, you know, the fact as well, on St. George's Day today, Keir Starmer, and we're going to talk about this a bit later on in the show, stood up and did a whole speech about patriotism. Oh, you know, he's all patriot. Well, his government are potentially going to criminalise or attempt to criminalise or at least ruin the days of some people who may have done absolutely nothing wrong and may have already been found innocent of having done things wrong. I mean, why would anyone want to join the military under this government?
I have no idea why anybody would want to join the military to be treated like this, to be hounded years after by people in ivory towers who are making judgments who never had to live under that. Most of these people have fired nothing but a secretary. They've never fired a gun. They've never been under fire. Hilary Benn, who is the Northern Ireland minister, I spoke to his father many years ago, who I really liked. I really liked Tony Benn. And I asked him, how did he reconcile being a member of the armed forces during the Second World War? And he said to me, I realized that for peace, it doesn't matter what type of pacifist you have to have people who are prepared to die for peace. Yeah. And every service person I know has been prepared to go to conflict to save people they'll never know, they'll never speak the same tongue as, they'll never break bread with. But all of a sudden, politicians seem to want to victimise all of us, and they want to make us into the bad people. when we've taken all the risks. We've done everything we've been asked of us.
And sent there on orders by those politicians. I'm absolutely certain that the vast majority of British armed forces had absolutely no desire whatsoever to go and get shot at in guerrilla warfare on the streets of Belfast, or in Afghanistan, or in Iraq, but they were sent there following orders by politicians who now pass laws to then criminalise them for actions that they might not have even done. Simon, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. I really do hope to see you soon. Simon Weston there, Falklands veteran, also served in Northern Ireland. So a UK government spokesperson said this: the government recognises the dedicated service and sacrifice of members of the armed forces who did so much to keep people in Northern Ireland safe during the Troubles, and is committed to supporting all our veterans. There can be no rewriting of history. The approach taken by previous government through the Legacy Act did nothing to help veterans, and it has been found by the courts to be unlawful. Gosh, right. Coming up at 10 p.m.
There are people trying to sow division in our communities. People taking the red and white of our flag, but they want to take it with them as they throw bricks at businesses.
Don't be fooled by the flags. He's called for the abolition of the monarchy and been happy to represent Britain's enemies. Is the Prime Minister really a patriot? I'll give you my take at 10, but first I expose an immigration judge who moonlights as a barrister representing illegal migrants. Oh, you've heard it all now, haven't you? Stay tuned.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. There will still be a few lingering showers for a little while yet, but most places will turn dry overnight, and with some clear skies in the west, it will turn a bit chilly for some. Currently, we have high pressure to the north and to the south, and low pressure both to the east and the west. As a result, we're in something called a col, under which our weather is going to settle down, and so we're seeing most of those showers dying out and clearing away. That being said, there will be quite a bit of cloud overnight across eastern and some southern parts, and this cloud could bring a few spots of rain as well. But under some clearer skies, particularly towards the west, things are going to turn a little chilly. Some prone spots may see a touch of frost, and there could be a few patches of mist and fog developing too. But as we start tomorrow morning then, a fairly cloudy story across many southern areas, perhaps a few glimmers of brightness across Devon and Somerset, and also some parts of Wales. There should be some sunny spells, decent amount of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, northwest England and central and western Scotland, but the further east you are, the greater chance you have of those cloudy skies, and with that the greater chance of a few spots of rain, but nothing especially heavy. Now as we go through the day, through the morning into the afternoon, I am expecting some of this cloud to break up and burn away a little bit, but it is going to linger in a few places, so it is going to stay quite grey for some areas, particularly across central southern England, some eastern parts of Scotland. Elsewhere, a bit of sunshine developing, and if you get this sunshine, well, it's not going to feel too bad. Temperatures peaking in the mid to high teens Celsius. But we have some cloudy, wet and blustery weather pushing in from the west later on, and this is going to affect particularly Northern Ireland as we go through Friday, but also fringing into western Scotland and maybe western parts of England and Wales. Further east, a fine day, plenty of decent sunny weather on offer, and that's the case through this weekend. Towards the northwest, there will be some rain at times, drier towards the southeast and warm too.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Welcome back. Coming up, should the Prime Minister really be lecturing us about patriotism? But first, 2 Albanian lesbians were last week given the right to remain in the UK because they insisted they would face persecution back home, despite the fact that homosexuality was decriminalised in the country 30 years ago. And earlier this month, an asylum seeker avoided removal to Iran because his online political activities and his hundreds of Facebook friends could put him at risk of persecution. The judge ruling in both of those cases was none other than Rebecca Chapman. And as exposed by the journalist Rod Liddle in The Spectator, when she is not adjudicating in these courts, she works as an immigration barrister representing, you guessed it, asylum seekers. Joining me to discuss this further is the immigration lawyer Paul Turner. Paul, thank you very much. Now, I assumed this wasn't legal. I didn't think you could be an immigration judge and moonlight as a barrister trying to keep illegal immigrants in the country.
Moonlighting is perhaps a strong word for it, Patrick. Most of the judiciary in the immigration tribunal are made up of either full-time judges, salaried judges, or judges that work part-time. And the majority of the part-time judges either work as barristers or work as solicitors. It's not only immigration. I believe in the civil courts, part-time judges also do the same thing. So it might appear at first blush to be a bit of a shock, but that's the way it's been going for many, many years.
Well, surely it needs to change then. And does this not explain why we end up with such bonkers rulings?
Well, looking at the last one, Mr. Liddle's he's grabbed the sexuality point and run with it as far as he could run. I read the article, the sapphic love and all of this, and I've been to Albania and I liked Albania myself. But the actual decision and the concessions made by the Home Office were that the two women were kidnapped, trafficked to the United Kingdom, as well as being gay. And their argument was that going back to Albania, given their significant mental health problems, created a real risk.
With absolute respect, you've hit on a couple of buzzwords there, haven't you? Traffic to the United Kingdom, which is dubious at best, and significant mental health problems, which is also dubious at best. If you move from one country to another, you can claim trafficking. Anyone can claim in an immigration sense that they've got mental health problems. And this is what I suspect is going on in our courts, where judges, like this particular lady, who also works representing these people and trying to keep them in the country, are the ones making these decisions. I mean, we haven't got a chance, have we?
Well, to some degree, you can say anything you want to. I could claim that I'm the king, but I don't think very many people would believe it. In this case, the Home Office themselves accepted that they had been trafficked, and the Home Office didn't challenge the mental health report. It would have been open for the Home Office to have instructed an expert and said, they're making it up. They're really just swinging the lead. And they haven't been trafficked, they bought a ticket. But the Home Office accepted that, and the judge in this case applied the law. You might not like the result, but...
Well, I don't think many people like the idea. Currently, our system is broken, and people like Abdul Azidi, who doused a woman and a child with acid in Clapham, despite having been failed for asylum numerous times, and then lied about being a Christian. We know he lied because he had a Muslim funeral. Those people can stay in Britain. OK, and to me, it seems like the logical explanation for that will be these inexplicable rulings given by immigration judges who are politically and personally compromised by having jobs that are singularly designed around keeping illegal migrants in the UK. Can we not draw a line here? Can we not say this shouldn't happen? No other line of work would allow this, surely.
Well, as I say, other judges in other jurisdictions do allow it, and the judges have to be appointed, and their decisions
by
are
who?
By the Judicial Appointments Committee.
Right, who's on that?
Other judges.
Right, and so are they all like this?
Well, no, a lot of the other judges that would have done the appointing will include members that sit on the High Court, and they are not necessarily ex-immigration barristers. The system is quite rigorous in the appointing of judges. Also, if the Home Office don't like the decision, or they think the decision is offensive, they could appeal it to the Court of Appeal. I agree with you, Patrick. The system is broken. The case of the chap that threw acid and pretended to be a Christian and had a Muslim burial, it's appalling. The problem there, I've put the blame on the Home Office. The Home Office could have removed him many times before. The Home Office could have appointed representatives to challenge his spurious claims of being a Christian. It's not right.
Just very briefly, because we've only got a few seconds. Do you think that realistically there's quite a lot of cases where we've got immigration tribunal judges who are also working in when they're not doing that to help keep illegal migrants in the country? Is that a thing?
I wouldn't say keep illegal migrants in the country.
Help them.
is that they're representing their client's best interest and seeking to be applied fairly.
That's a diplomatic answer, diplomatic way of saying yes, possibly. Paul, can I just say a massive thank you, mate? Well, really, really great to have you on. I do appreciate you putting up the time for us this evening. It's Paul Turner there, immigration lawyer. GB News did approach Rebecca Chapman for comment. She did not respond. Right, when we come back, I've got a few words for Keir Starmer. I think he's the worst person in Britain to be lecturing us about patriotism. Stay tuned.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. There will still be a few lingering showers for a little while yet, but most places will turn dry overnight, and with some clear skies in the west, it will turn a bit chilly for some. Currently, we have high pressure to the north and to the south, and low pressure both to the east and the west. As a result, we're in something called a col, under which our weather is going to settle down, and so we're seeing most of those showers dying out and clearing away. That being said, there will be quite a bit of cloud overnight across eastern and some southern parts, and this cloud could bring a few spots of rain as well. But under some clearer skies, particularly towards the west, things are going to turn a little chilly. Some prone spots may see a touch of frost, and there could be a few patches of mist and fog developing too. But as we start tomorrow morning then, a fairly cloudy story across many southern areas, perhaps a few glimmers of brightness across Devon and Somerset, and also some parts of Wales. There should be some sunny spells. Decent amount of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, northwest England and central and western Scotland, but the further east you are, the greater chance you have of those cloudy skies, and with that, the greater chance of a few spots of rain, but nothing especially heavy. Now, as we go through the day, through the morning into the afternoon, I am expecting some of this cloud to break up and burn away a little bit, but it is going to linger in a few places, so it is going to stay quite grey for some areas, particularly across central southern England, some eastern parts of Scotland. Elsewhere, a bit of sunshine developing, and if you get this sunshine, well, it's not going to feel too bad. Temperatures peaking in the mid to high teens Celsius. But we have some cloudy, wet and blustery weather pushing in from the west later on, and this is going to affect particularly Northern Ireland as we go through Friday, but also fringing into western Scotland and maybe western parts of England and Wales. Further east, a fine day, plenty of decent sunny weather on offer, and that's the case through this weekend. Towards the northwest, there will be some rain at times, drier towards the southeast and warm too.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
There are people trying to sow division in our communities. People taking the red and white of our flag, but they want to take it with them as they throw bricks at businesses.
Keir Starmer makes St George's Day all about the far right.
To be English. We stand up for what we believe in, even when it's not easy. And as we witness the rise of populism and prejudice around the world.
Sadiq Khan makes it all about Ukraine, refugees, diversity, trans, whereas Robert Jenrick, on the other hand...
Happy St George's Day. England is a great nation, a great people.
Nichols, we shall never surrender.
This round
of the Queen's coronation.
They think it's all over. It is. That's how you do it. And he wasn't the only Tory having a good day.
The truth is, he doesn't have the balls.
Well, Kemi found Keir Starmer's weak spot. Women. Also tonight... Illegal migrant gang warfare is coming right across the English Channel. Plus... Pakistani Islamists attack Indians and India retaliates. How long before we've got issues on the streets of Britain? On my panel tonight is the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, pub landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And what do you think I should ask these two a little bit later on in the show?
He went up there and he was coming back down towards us and he goes, run, he's got a gun.
Could be a tricky one, that. Get ready, Britain, here we go. How dare Keir Starmer lecture us about patriotism? Next.
Patrick, thank you very much. The top stories: intergang rivalries have led to an alarming rise in migrant violence as 8 illegal immigrants have arrived in the UK with stab wounds in the last 12 months. The tensions come as thousands of migrants prepare for a huge summer surge in small boat crossings. Just this week, 1 migrant was stabbed to death and 2 others seriously injured in separate incidents around Calais. One senior maritime security source told GBNews the increase in violence is extremely concerning. The UK government's borrowing soared to almost £152 billion last year, the second highest in a decade. New ONS figures reveal that's £14.6 billion more than predicted, piling the pressure on already stretched public finances. Economists say the country ended the year on a poor footing, while now hurtling towards further challenges with US President Donald Trump's trade tariffs. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has signalled the UK could lower tariffs on US car imports as she tries to broker a trade deal with the Trump administration. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride says it's important to get the right deal as quickly as possible.
Clearly hugely important that we get these 25% tariffs on cars and steel down, but it depends upon at what cost. And of course, at the moment, we don't have a deal. And one of the criticisms I would have of the government is it's taken them a long time, in fact, to even have got in the room with the US administration to start discussing these issues, let alone getting a deal now. So let's wait till we see the detail.
Well, in other news, the deal to resolve the bin strike in Birmingham could be in touching distance, according to the Unite union. The action by members of Unite, which began on the 11th of March as part of a dispute over pay, has seen thousands of tonnes of rubbish go uncollected and warnings of a public health emergency in the city. Talks to end the strike are to involve the conciliation service ACAS for the first time, signalling that an agreement could be close. Well, happy St George's Day. The feast day of England's patron saint is honoured in Christian churches across the world today. Downing Street raised the flag of St George this morning after Sir Keir Starmer said England faces a never-ending fight for our flag and what it represents. The Prime Minister shared his worries about the far right claiming ownership of St George's Cross at a Downing Street reception featuring a raft of celebrities. And happy birthday to Prince Louis. His Royal Highness turned 7 years old today, and this new video of him was released.
I can jump down from here.
and a happy birthday to him from GB News. It's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
How dare the Prime Minister lecture us about the flag of St George? I don't think there is a patriotic bone in that man's body. The PM invited Gary Lineker around to celebrate St George's Day in Downing Street, and that tells you everything you need to know. Then, instead of talking up England and Englishness, he shamelessly used it as an opportunity to talk about the far right.
There are people trying to sow division in our communities. People taking the red and white of our flag, but they want to take it with them as they throw bricks at businesses and our police. The day after the terrible Southport incident last year, we could see in the aftermath of that what it really is to be English.
Why on earth would you bring up Southport during a St George's Day message to the nation? While we're on that, though, Prime Minister, English people have every right to be very angry about the son of Rwandan immigrants who was on a prevent watch list slaughtering young girls. They also have a right to be very angry about hotel after hotel being used to house illegal immigrants and fundamentally changing the culture and way of life in small English towns. Keir Starmer used to want to abolish the monarchy.
I often used to propose the abolition of the monarchy.
And Keir Starmer ended up on a communist spy watch list after going to a Czechoslovakian work camp during the Cold War like any normal young man. Sir Keir Starmer is a raging Europhile who wanted to overturn the democratic vote of British citizens.
It's right that Parliament has the first say. It's right that Parliament has the first say. But if we need to break the impasse, our options must include campaigning for a public vote, and nobody is ruling out Remain as an option.
The Prime Minister has surrounded himself with some very strange people. His great mate, Lord Hermer, has represented a man who facilitated the 9/11 terror attacks. He's represented Gerry Adams. One of his other top mates is the lawyer for Mauritius over the Chagos Islands fiasco. Philippe Sands even attended the raising of the Mauritian flag on sovereign British territory. Starmer himself was happy to represent the now-banned terrorist organisation Hizb ut-Tahrir in their battle to be declassified as Islamists in the ECHR. Starmer spoke about reclaiming the flag in the wake of the summer disorder. The only flags I saw at those protests on the night of the far-right riots that never happened were Antifa, the Socialist Workers' Party and Palestine. Does he prefer those flags? Would any true patriot take the knee for Black Lives Matter? No proud Englishman would willingly end legal immunity for British veterans and allow them to be prosecuted for things that they may not have even done during the Troubles. How dare he stand in front of these? I mean, sorry as well. I mean, just look at that. Now, lastminute.com or what? Do you not think it looks a little bit like he's just sent someone out to Asda at the last minute? Just, right, we need something on the mantelpiece here. You know, where's the massive flags, eh? I mean, how dare he stand there and try to claim that he is a patriot? We all know what his type think of salt-of-the-earth, hard-working, flag-loving, white van-driving English people. And here's an example of it. Emily Thornberry, just mocking ordinary patriotic Englishmen and women. You know, but the rot runs deeper on the left. Sadiq Khan produced a video on St George's Day in which he made references to Ukraine, refugees, trans, diversity and the so-called problem with populism. I mean, should we just take a second to compare that to this?
Happy St George's Day. England is a great nation, a great people.
This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty.
We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. England expects that every man will do his duty.
That's how you do it, isn't it? Left-wing hacks like Kevin Maguire from The Mirror doing the obligatory tweet about how St George was Turkish and if he were alive today, we wouldn't let him into Britain. Rubbish. If St George was alive, of course we'd let him in, even if he came on a small boat. We've let about 2 million people into Britain in the last couple of years. We let everyone in. I think England is the best country in the world. I think English culture and our way of life is worth protecting. I think it's worth fighting for. And I will not take lectures from a Prime Minister who, in my view, has spent his entire life trying to tear it down. Let's get thoughts from my panel this evening. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and we've got broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Look, Mark, I thought Keir Starmer, to be honest with you, I thought it was a bit rich him standing up there and banging on about patriotism. Does he know the meaning of the word?
I don't know. I've got a lot of sympathy with what you said and your criticism of him. I'm a bit reluctant to call out people for not being patriotic if they claim they are. But here's the underlying problem, I think, for people of a kind of metropolitan Remainer liberal mindset like Starmer. Patriotism and days like St George's Day are, by their definition, not inclusive. They're about exceptionalism. They're about what makes us different. They're about what makes us proud of our culture compared to different cultures in the world. That doesn't need to be done in a mean-spirited, far-right sort of way, but they are definitionally exclusive events about the brilliance of England, our unbroken history of democracy, the continuity of our constitution. And I think that really sits in the craw of people like Khan and Starmer. They just can't cope with it. They believe in a globalist, everybody's the same, almost merge all flags into one type globalist approach. So I think he's in about as much of a muddle about this as he was in trying to work out what a woman was. I don't think he can really work out what a country is either.
Well, what do you think, Adam? I mean, do you think that he, was right to bring up some of the things he did in his message?
I'm not going to mince my words. I cannot stand the man. Honestly, he makes my blood boil. Using and weaponising Southport, I think, is one of the lowest things that he's done since he's been a Prime Minister. Those poor girls, that lost their life by that monster taken away, did not need to be brought up for this speech. This is a man that removed his poppy when he did an Islamophobia video. This is a man that wants to give our foreign territory away. This is a man that labels people like me far right because I don't want an invasion of our borders. This man, he's got contempt for the working class. 17-odd million Brexit votes. He wanted to overturn them because he didn't like the result. Him and all his posh mates...
He wanted to make people think again, to give them a second chance to consider what's happened.
And in fact... Do you think it's paid?
No disrespect, that's such snobbery.
Let's hear Nina on this.
You have no way of saying that he's not patriotic. He's English, his wife is English, his children are English, he lives in England. I, on the other hand, am not English. I was born in Scotland. My mother was Scottish. My father was Polish. He is the Prime Minister of the whole of the United Kingdom, of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. And so when Scotland has
St
Andrew's Day or St Patrick's Day in Ireland, fair enough. But he is completely entitled to bring up the fact that the St George's flag has and can be completely destroyed by extremists.
Utter nonsense.
There are extremists. Do you deny that there are extremists who use the flag?
One second, Nina. There's extremists in every country. You go to Italy and see some of the vile things that they're racist.
I'm not talking about Italy. I'm not talking about
France and
I'm
you
not
see some of
talking
their
about that.
extremists.
I'm talking about the English.
Every other country
I am talking
is proud of their
about
flag,
English.
apart from us.
We are. Everybody who is English should be proud of the flag, and Keir Starmer is exactly the same. If you heard what he said and heard what he wrote, he says no time for people who do not.
I think the underlying message there that I got was that he's trying to acknowledge that for some people the flag of our great nation is problematic, and I think for him it's been problematic.
I think that's the thing that look, you can't stop marginalised extremist groups using a particular coloured piece of fabric. You can't stop
in any country.
But it does happen.
Yeah, of course it happens. It happens everywhere.
But then he's allowed to call it out.
Well, of course, but the way to deal with that is you overwhelm them by it being in absolute standard common use. That it would be as normal in England to go round and see a St George's flag flying from somebody's house as it would be to see the Stars and Stripes in America.
Why shouldn't there be a Union Jack? Why not a Union Jack?
Either, that's fine.
But no, there's a difference between the Union Jack and the St George's flag.
Your Englishness or your Britishness.
No, it's different. There's a difference. There's a complete.
1 second.
But nobody riots with a Union Jack.
Well, I mean, the NF used to have the Union Jack as their emblem. So, I mean, you can keep nicking flags. But as you pointed out from Emily Thornbury's tweet...
Yes.
You know,
over a decade ago.
Over a decade ago. But there is this sort of... It to me, epitomises this sort of rather lofty sort of sneering
OK, she was... I thought it was snobby. I thought that was snobby, but it's over a decade ago, and surely she's learned a lesson by now.
George's flags and the Union Jack.
Do I look at, say, the Irish flag and think IRA? No, I don't. OK? I think he's doing that, it's obvious. But if going back to referendums, I honestly think if there was a national referendum on this, is Keir Starmer patriotic? I reckon 25% might say yes, and that'd be all the unions, all the people, you know, in the NHS and all the people that
That's nothing to do with it.
I think Nina, his track record and the company that he keeps would indicate strongly that he's not actually very patriotic.
No, I disagree.
Lord Hermer, representing some of the biggest wrong-uns in the world.
That's what lawyers do. It's like surgeons. You don't necessarily choose your patients or your clients.
The flag of Mauritius on British sovereign territory, supposedly a great mate of Keir Starmer. There is a pattern.
There is a...
What do you think they talk about
if they're in the same legal chambers and they've known each other all that time, why not? He knows he's a very good lawyer. But lawyers have to take different cases. They don't necessarily believe... Look, somebody who defends a murderer does not condone murder, for God's sake. I mean, let's get a bit more sophisticated about this. Very simplistic, this argument.
The bit that Starmer would struggle with is if you said to him, tell us about English exceptionalism over the centuries.
Of course he would. Of course he would.
Of this. Now, Robert Jenrick nailed that. Churchill, Nelson, Newton, Bentham, the Industrial Revolution.
Ponting, you know.
Look,
Jeff Hurst.
You're turning it into jingoism.
That's not jingoism.
It is absolute jingoism.
Isaac Newton.
No, but
William Shakespeare.
No. You are
Englishmen to be proud of.
Everybody should be proud of it. But when it spills over into
I said that spilled over.
It does spill over.
Liking Nelson and Churchill and William Shakespeare.
The thing is, you're going back in history. You're not.
That's what our country is.
Yeah, but the country has a future too. Going back over the history.
It's a celebration of where we've come from.
No, it's not necessarily. It's a celebration of
sheet of paper.
Okay, where we've come from, but who we are, who we are as people. But you can, if you actually.
I'll say one thing. Right? Keir Starmer is a self-confessed socialist. I do not believe socialists can be patriotic.
That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. That's like...
I've never met a socialist that wants the country to be better.
I actually... Socialists can. I'm not sure Metropolitan Liberals
He is working his socks off. Bloody hell, trying to make the country as best it can be.
You'd expect the Prime Minister to work his socks off.
All right.
Come on. This is ridiculous.
A robust discussion. No doubt plenty of people watching this will think, well, look, what he did there was lovely, and it was a great idea to have Gary Lineker around to help bring in St George's Day.
And Rob Beckett.
Yeah.
Oh, what a big name.
No, I'm not saying a big... You're saying
no
Gary...
disrespect to Rob Beckett, he's a funny guy.
Because he might be about to prosecute after them, but you don't know.
I mean, for heaven's sake.
All right. Fair enough. Sorry, all right. All joking aside, I'm sure Keir Starmer's not about to prosecute half of all of our war veterans. Right. Time for the Great British Giveaway now, and it's our biggest prize to get today.
We're making the Great British Giveaway a getaway with a chance to win our biggest prize to date. You could be the proud owner of this Elneg Baron 560 motorhome, worth over £67,000. Supplied brand new from Marquis Leisure, you could be exploring Great Britain and beyond this summer and making memories to last a lifetime. This motorhome comfortably sleeps 4, has its own kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comes complete with all of the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle of this calibre. And that's not all, as we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash so you can get started on your next adventure as soon as possible. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel, and the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm joined by the Australian twins that have taken Britain by storm.
He went up there and he was coming back down towards us and he goes, run, he's got a gun.
Yeah, so those identical twins join me live in just a few minutes' time, but before that. It's a GB News exclusive. Warnings of an illegal migrant stabbing epidemic, easy for me to say, and it's on its way to the UK. Stay tuned.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
We're seeing on the screen now some of the elements of the board. Some of the things that have been discovered have to do with transport. We've found quite a lot of wagons, haven't we, and wheels. Now, is this quite unusual?
It is, and, you know, we don't know, because we've got the iron tyres but not the wheels and the vehicles, whether these were wagons or chariots or both. But to the extent that some of them are almost certainly wagons, then that is a first for Iron Age Britain. So, you know, it's very interesting. And to find this quantity of objects together is really unusual.
Would you like to speculate on why so many objects have been found in one place?
Well, it could be that they are the remains of funeral pyres. There have been no human remains found with them, but we know that with, you know, one of the Iron Age rituals was to deface and burn objects which would then be presumably taken to the afterlife. It was at the side of the road leading up to the enormous Iron Age hill fort of Stanwick, and maybe it's something like that. I like to think of it as potentially the Appian Way in Rome, where the tombs lined the road on the way into the city, but that's a bit fanciful.
And one of the things we can deduce from this is wealth, can we not?
Absolutely.
I mean, these people have jewellery, they have sophisticated household items, and they have these vehicles which are pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, exactly.
These were rich people.
They were, and the quality of the objects, the horse bits are quite oversized compared to what we normally find, and they are embossed with coral and enamel. And that, again, is unusual and indicative of wealth and trade links as far as the Mediterranean.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. All of tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming your way very shortly. But first, GB News can exclusively reveal that inter-gang rivalries have led to an alarming rise in migrant violence, with 8 small boat migrants arriving in the UK with stab injuries in the past 12 months. Now, 1 migrant was stabbed to death and 2 others seriously injured in separate incidents around Calais this week. GB News can also reveal that a massive surge in small boat crossings is expected, with thousands of migrants descending on Calais. So this footage shows the sheer numbers taking advantage of, by the way, just try not to spit your tea or your coffee out here, free bus services to get to the French coast. And here, footage of French police who seem to be advising migrants on how to relaunch their small boat after it failed the first time round. Joining me now is writer and political commentator Dr. Mike Jones. Always a pleasure to have you on. I hope you're keeping well. Just when it comes to this, I mean, first things first, really. So inter-gang warfare just making its way across the channel, isn't it, really?
Yeah, good evening, Patrick. Well, it's a bleak, foreboding picture and a warning of what may lie ahead. I mean, many of these men are armed, hardened by months or years of rough sleeping and unafraid to use violence even against French police, the gendarmerie. But really, what did we expect? You know, these are mostly young, military-age men. They've crossed continents, dodged border patrols, and shared intel with smuggling gangs. They are operating off the grid, outside the law. You know, the kind of person who undertakes that journey is not a passive bystander. He's someone comfortable with risk, with rule-breaking, and with confrontation. Many of them will be ruthless. Many will be carrying weapons. Some won't hesitate to use them on rivals. So, yeah, it's a dangerous situation, and it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, and, you know, again here now, we've had reports previously that we're actually importing both sides of the Sudanese civil war. And if you end up with migrants with stab wounds on arrival, it would indicate that they've clearly been stabbing and fighting for access to the boats. And that is an insight, I think, into the violent mentality of some of these men.
Yeah, and it's been going on for a long time. I mean, you might remember, Patrick, but back in February 2018, a major street battle erupted between Eritrean and Afghan migrants in Calais. Over 100 people were involved, I think 130. 22 were injured, and 4 teenagers were shot. Yes, that's right, they were actually shot with guns. So this has been going on for a long time, and it's not just rival groups turning on each other. I mean, in 2017, there was a mob of sort of roughly 60 Afghan, Eritrean and Sudanese migrants who attacked the French police near the port of Calais while they were trying to get on UK-bound lorries. So it's a very dangerous situation, you know, and it's going to get worse with the numbers crossing.
Yeah, I mean, I think our viewers and listeners will have been absolutely sickened by the idea that the French are now providing free bus services to the French coast. By the way, I don't actually really blame the French. I mean, yeah. If we're gullible enough to give them a load of money, right, and then they put bus service on, of course they don't want some of these people in their country. I've got no real objection to that. The problem is that we're the end of the line and we're not really deporting anyone. But it will stick in the craw of the British taxpayer that the French are, well, they're bussing them over, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that will almost certainly stick to the craw. And, you know, on the shores themselves, the gendarmerie should actually be puncturing the boats, not giving them advice. And obviously the French are changing the law so that they can intercept these boats in shallow waters. But it does beg the question, will the French police have the stones to do it? Because they're outnumbered. And, you know, if you've got 70 migrants in a boat, are they actually going to apprehend these craft? And in many cases, they might be too afraid to do it. But, you know, the British taxpayer is shelling all this money out for the police to be, you know, policing the shores.
Yeah.
So,
It's a problem. The sight of it is absolutely terrible. And from what our Home and Security Editor Mark White is saying, this is according to sources on the ground, there are literally thousands, and we are shaping up for a record-breaking, a record-busting summer in the Channel there. One of the other concerns that I've got, and this is actually in relation to sectarian violence, so importing, like we mentioned there, say, both sides of the Sudanese civil war or Eritreans versus Afghans, with what we're just seeing going on at the moment between India and Pakistan. So India has retaliated, albeit relatively peacefully so far anyway, to the terrorist attack committed by a Pakistani there. They've decided to, as I understand it anyway, do away with the visas of every single Pakistani in that particular region. That could lead to tensions spilling out on the streets of Britain. And is this another example, do you think, Dr. Mack, of how very well-meaning people who've welcomed in the world into Britain from various different cultures, etc., have actually imported a lot of potential foreign drama?
Yeah, for sure. You're spot on with that. I mean, we had major tensions between British Hindus and British Pakistanis in Leicester a few years ago with the Leicester riots, and it began after an India-Pakistan cricket match, and it was accompanied by a lot of sort of disinformation online. And there was, extreme violence there. And before then, you had, conflicts in Lozells and Birmingham. You had the Northern riots back in 2001. So, yeah, obviously, if you make your country more diverse, you've got a diversity of groups and ethnic rivalries and various tensions between them. So, this is an example of the long-term intergenerational impact of mass immigration. It complicates things, and yeah, it can, turn your country into a tinderbox.
Well, it can. I mean, I hope, just in relation to that obviously it doesn't kick off. I'm not particularly hopeful of it not erupting, certainly in that particular bit of India there, the kind of Kashmir area with India and Pakistan. I think if there is volatility there, unfortunately, I think we are going to see volatility here in places like Leicester, parts of Birmingham, for example, and dare I say it, on the streets of London as well. But Dr. Mike Jones, thank you very, very much. It's always a pleasure. You take care. It's Dr. Mike Jones, a writer and political commentator, one of the very, very best in the business. Coming up, well, yes, I'm going to be joined by the identical twins who have taken Britain by storm. But talking of storm, shall we find out how your weather is abroad?
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure. And no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's quite a mixed picture across southern Europe as we go through the next couple of days. Western parts mostly dry, but in the east we have some heavy, thundery rain. There's the risk of frequent lightning, some large hail, gusty winds, and rainfall totals of around 50 to 75 millimetres in just a few hours could cause some flooding. Like I said, though, further west, a lot of dry weather, and here it is going to stay mostly fine as we go through the next couple of days. In fact, across the Canary Islands, we're going to see our temperatures rising into the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. I've got the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you now. So we're going to start with the Metro. They've gone with £2 million Oasis campaign supernova. At least 5,000 victims as rip-off criminals cash in on reunion tour fever. So apparently fans have been conned. I'll just give you a bit more detail on this. So Oasis fans desperate to see their sellout reunion tour have been conned out of £2 million by online scammers. Apparently, I'm just trying to figure out what exactly the con is here.
They're fake tickets.
Is it just straightforward fake tickets?
I think that is it, yeah.
Gosh, well, on that note, I still want a ticket. So if anyone is watching or listening to this and they have a ticket going, please get in touch with me and I will buy it off you. Anyway, let's go to The Guardian. Crimea is lost, says Trump, as he warns Zelensky on a peace deal. Now, this is not as radical as it... I don't know, it might not sound radical to you, but there's no doubt people are going to try and paint it out. I interviewed Boris Johnson a while ago, and I asked him, he's Mr. Ukraine, really. I asked him about this, and he basically said that he felt realistically that they were going to lose Crimea, and they were going to have to... He didn't like it, no one likes it, but he said... So Trump coming out and saying it is actually quite similar to what...
Reality.
Yes, but he also...
If we go to World War III, most of this territory is lost, and I don't want World War III, so... That's unfortunate.
Yes, but he also said that if it doesn't take this deal, then he's going to lose all of Ukraine. Now, how can he say? How can he say that?
He will in 3 years' time or 2 years' time. They cannot beat Russia, especially unless we go to World War III.
They can't hold their lines without huge American support.
If you let Putin get away with it, he will just keep moving west.
That's the key thing.
Zelensky is fighting our war for us.
No.
All right. Well, let's. We've got some other papers here. The Daily Mail. Back my peace or lose all of Ukraine, Trump was. Well done, Nina. You were one step ahead of us. Sorry. There we go. The Daily Telegraph. Trump, Zelensky to blame for no peace. They've also got a massive picture of Nigel Farage with a bulldog. So there we go. I've got a fighting chance to be PM. So apparently Nigel Farage has put between a 35 and 45% chance on him being the next Prime Minister.
Well, yes, must we all just interject if we're talking about him with a British bulldog and patriotism. He was the man who admires Putin.
No, he didn't say he admired...
He said he was a great political operator.
Yes.
Yeah, but he did...
Don't twist it, Nina.
I'm not twisting it.
Misinformation.
It's not misinformation. It's exactly what he said.
There's a good story here, and it's down the right-hand side of the Daily Telegraph. The South will pay more for electricity in Miliband plan. This is really, really interesting.
Disgusting.
So Ed Miliband is poised to approve changes that would mean households in the South pay more for electricity than those in Scotland and the north. It's like a reverse poll tax, just for electricity. So it says supporters say that the change will cut household electricity bills overall by reducing the need for grid upgrades. But I'm sorry, I just find this absolutely astonishing.
No, so what happens to, say, the local council estate near me? Why should they pay more than a council estate up north? They're both struggling to, you know, some of the people on there are going to be struggling to earn a living. This is a disgrace.
Regional power pricing. So you know, apparently the Telegraph has been told that government officials have advised Mr Miliband to press ahead with this policy. They say that it could also still be blocked, but in practice it's likely to mean that Scotland, other parts of the UK, where there is supposedly abundant wind generation, would pay less for electricity than households in the south. Now, hey, look, I've got a huge amount of you. I'm from the north. I've got a huge amount of viewers and listeners in the north, but I'm not against you paying less. What I am saying is I just don't see this is not just another example of Ed Miliband's net zero nuttery.
Yeah, it is. Although the thing where I would allow regional differences, the French are much better at this than we are. If in a local area you were willing to have a small modular nuclear reactor put in, which is about the size of a football stadium, I think a local area that says, yeah, we'll have one of those, should potentially get cheaper electricity that will allow fracking than somewhere that says, no, we don't want that anywhere near us.
But also, if they've got wind farms, then they are contributing to the grid. We are not. We don't have a wind farm in the middle of London, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's paid for by the company there, right? I mean, once it's in the grid, it doesn't really matter where you then pass on the electricity to.
I just think practically, though, it seems like an odd thing for... Because it's a bit like the poll tax, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's worth. The poll tax is supposed to be equal everywhere. This seems like punishment for areas that are not target areas for Labour. Right? The poll tax was supposed to be the same price for everyone. This is more like the farmer's tax. We found a cohort of people that we don't think are part of our client vote, so let's hit them hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I suppose they say that overall this would take the pressure off the grid. Sir Keir Starmer has apparently announced £300 million of funding for UK domestic offshore wind supply chains. I just think it's remarkable. So, depending on where you live so just by living in the south of England, just having maybe you had to move here for work, right? And you know, you live here now, and then all of a sudden your electricity bill is going up just because of where you live. It seems a bit bizarre.
Well, it's saying living in London is more expensive than living in the countryside. We know, so
that's a market price. Right? That is because property prices, the market price, the demand for property is higher in London than it is in areas of the north by and large.
But we're having to do a heck of a lot for Ed Miliband's net zero dream, aren't we? Really? Here, you've got the heat pumps, you've got your electric cars. I mean, the electric cars have gone the same way as diesel cars, haven't they? I mean, they've told, go and buy it. We'll incentivise you to buy it. Then you get it, and all of a sudden, actually, all those incentives disappear.
Going back to the chap you pointed out is on the front page of the Telegraph, Nigel Farage, who's recently said he thinks net zero is the new Brexit.
Agreed.
And I think he's probably right. I think what he means by that is this is a fairly uncontroversial topic for the right-thinking liberal elite. Sort of everybody agreed. The Conservatives are now beginning to move away from it, but the Tories, the Liberals and Labour all agreed that net zero was good in the same way they all agreed remaining in the EU was good. But out there, in the real world, the electorate are feeling the pinch. And as the rubber hits the road on this one, I think we're going to get a big rebellion of the people against net zero.
Let's get your views on this, because we're having potentially a lot asked of us here. So let's just say you live in a rural northern or Scottish area. You might have that beautiful view shattered by solar panels and wind farms, which you might not have that much of an ability anymore to actually oppose. You then have to make serious changes to your home, whether it's through insulation or heat pumps or electric cars. Again, it's money, isn't it? Then in the south of England, you're being asked to pay a huge amount more money. And then let's say we hit it. Let's say we hit this target. It doesn't really do anything for global emissions, does it? It just allows us to go to Xi Jinping and say, well, we're world leading, why don't you do anything about it? And he just goes, I don't care about you.
Chinese are building more wind farms than we are.
And they're also building...
They're also digging up a lot of
Well, what do you think about this?
No, I think we all have to, as a globe, move towards trying to reduce our emissions. And we have no right to lecture other countries if we don't do things ourselves. I think we have to take a moral high ground on this.
The interesting thing is we've made incredible progress. I mean, the United Kingdom has slashed emissions since the 1990s. You would think Greenpeace and Just Stop Oil and Greta Thunberg would be applauding the incredible progress we've made. And the problem is we seem obsessed about carbon emissions in our own airspace. So we're not producing our own things, we're then importing them from other countries. The carbon footprint over there is higher than it would be if we made them ourselves.
Absolutely.
But we've washed our hands of it. So we're not doing anything to cut global emissions, we're just importing them.
I wonder if it's a really cack-handed way of trying to appeal to Northern Red Wall voters, actually, by saying, like, look, okay, tell you what, we'll make those Southerners pay more, but you're making them pay less for something they don't care, they don't want. People in the Red Wall, a lot of them, they can't give a toss about net zero. They don't want it.
They just want it all to be cheaper.
They just want, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, right, I've got some more newspapers coming your way, and we're going to be analysing Kemi Badenoch, well, criticising Keir Starmer's balls in the House of Commons. You heard.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. There will still be a few lingering showers for a little while yet, but most places will turn dry overnight, and with some clear skies in the west, it will turn a bit chilly for some. Currently, we have high pressure to the north and to the south, and low pressure both to the east and the west. As a result, we're in something called a col, under which our weather is going to settle down, and so we're seeing most of those showers dying out and clearing away. That being said, there will be quite a bit of cloud overnight across eastern and some southern parts, and this cloud could bring a few spots of rain as well. But under some clearer skies, particularly towards the west, things are going to turn a little chilly. Some prone spots may see a touch of frost, and there could be a few patches of mist and fog developing too. But as we start tomorrow morning then, a fairly cloudy story across many southern areas, perhaps a few glimmers of brightness across Devon and Somerset, and also some parts of Wales. There should be some sunny spells. Decent amount of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, northwest England and central and western Scotland, but the further east you are, the greater chance you have of those cloudy skies, and with that, the greater chance of a few spots of rain, but nothing especially heavy. Now, as we go through the day, through the morning into the afternoon, I am expecting some of this cloud to break up and burn away a little bit, but it is going to linger in a few places, so it is going to stay quite grey for some areas, particularly across central southern England, some eastern parts of Scotland. Elsewhere, a bit of sunshine developing, and if you get this sunshine, well, it's not going to feel too bad. Temperatures peaking in the mid to high teens Celsius. But we have some cloudy, wet and blustery weather pushing in from the west later on, and this is going to affect particularly Northern Ireland as we go through Friday, but also fringing into western Scotland and maybe western parts of England and Wales. Further east, a fine day, plenty of decent sunny weather on offer, and that's the case through this weekend. Towards the northwest, there will be some rain at times, drier towards the southeast and warm too.
OK, welcome back. A couple more front pages for you. So we go to the Times now. Zelensky is a key, or the Mirror even, sorry, my fault. The Mirror, Top Gear horror ordeal. Freddie, part of me wished I had died. This is Freddie Flintoff, Andrew Flintoff, revealing the car crash that left him so traumatised on Top Gear that he was wondering whether or not he would have been better off having been killed, which is a horrific thing to even think about. But well done him for, you know, for getting...
He's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Really, really. I interviewed him once, and he is just so warm and smart and nice, very self-deprecating. And this was before the accident, and he was, even then, you know, his whole body aches. He's had a shoulder and a this and that. He had a lot of injuries.
That guy went through them. I mean, absolutely ran through brick walls for that English cricket team.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely went and squeezed every single ounce of raw natural talent that he had out, and did it all, you know, on the back of a kebab and 9 pints. I just love that.
That's why he featured on Robert Jenrick's St George's Day video.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Times. Zelensky is key obstacle to peace deal, says Trump. They've also got that lovely picture there of a gappy-toothed Prince Louis, who's turned 7 today. Happy birthday, Prince Louis. Ministers prepared to cut car and farm tariffs to ease US trade. So, well, it was a relatively dry front page from the Times there, uncharacteristically so. They had a real stonking front page yesterday. But anyway, now, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch took it to Sir Keir Starmer this afternoon at PMQs. in what I think was probably her best performance so far. Let's have a little look.
So will he now apologise to the member for Canterbury, the very brave member for Canterbury, for hounding her out of the Labour Party simply for telling the truth?
Mr. Speaker, I've always approached this on the basis that we should treat everyone with dignity and respect, whatever their different views.
This is a question about moral courage, Mr. Speaker, about doing the right thing even when it is difficult. And the truth is, he doesn't have the balls.
That is what people thought they were going to get from Kemi from day one. And, well, I suppose it's maybe happening now.
She knocked it out of the park today.
I disagree with you entirely.
I think virtually every commentator has said that's her best PMQs ever. You'll notice Starmer couldn't bear to look at her across the dispatch box. Most of the PMQs, he's looked her right in the eye and has been able to get the better of her, and I say that as a Tory member. But today, brilliant. She went on the right topic, she was succinct, and Starmer had no answers. And bringing in Rosie Duffield, that MP that Starmer had treated so appallingly, was genius.
Why do you disagree, Nina?
I think she's dud. I think she's a complete dud. She won't last. And although today she managed to stick on the same topic for 6 questions, because she's been all over the place before this, but then, you know, that line has been written for her, you know, you don't have the balls, OK? So that's the only way she can get a headline in PMQs.
So Keir Starmer has writers as well.
For you. They don't extend.
Keir Starmer doesn't write his own.
I'm not castigating.
You're using someone else's written.
I'm not castigating her for someone else writing it. They all have teams of people who write these things and who rehearse with them. But that is the only thing, is by using unparliamentary language, because otherwise we wouldn't be mentioning her. The fact that she said he didn't have the balls, that is unparliamentary language.
He couldn't answer any of the questions that you put to her.
I wonder if she...
Yes, but he had some damn good answers.
I think some of
bringing up Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak making a joke about transgender.
Didn't apologise to Rosie Duffield.
I'll just bring Adam in because we were a bit pressed time. But some of the criticisms of Kemi Badenoch in the past is that she's missed the bleeding obvious. Like when there were farmers outside and she didn't mention farming. She's nailed in on Keir Starmer's weak point here, hasn't she?
Look, today I will give her credit. She absolutely destroyed him in Parliament today.
Didn't destroy him.
Yes, she did, Nina.
No, she didn't.
But one thing, Kemi Badenoch cannot win an election for the Tories, so they've got a decision to make very soon in the next year or so. Do they stick with her and just keep going down in the polls, or do they go for Robert Jenrick, that seems to have the finger on the pulse with reform voters and maybe the working class a little bit more? That's
the thing, and we didn't do it this evening. We have done it previously earlier today on GB News. There's that leaked audio recording there of Robert Jenrick mentioning some kind of pact with reform.
Coalition, he said.
Coalition. Esther McVeigh said something similar as well. And you know, you look at this and you think, well, actually, I don't think it's that uncontroversial. If the uniting force on the right is no more Labour, and that's the priority, then you do it.
I think there has to be a bit more about it than that. I think the interesting thing, irrespective of who the leaders of the parties are, is over the next year or two, do the Conservatives and Reform alight upon a very similar policy platform? Right? So if you've got Reform and the Conservatives saying, we both think we should leave ECHR, we both think we should abandon carbon net zero, we both think taxes should be reduced, we both think that DEI has gone way too far and should end. And it might not be a circle, but it'll be a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap. If you end up with the key propositions of those two parties being remarkably similar, then it seems to me a bit odd that you would run 650 candidates against each other and potentially see the Labour Party get re-elected on 24%.
But why would Reform want to tie up with a bunch of losers?
Well, Reform will also suffer in seats if the Conservatives split the vote.
No, Reform doesn't want to be tied up to the Tories. Bunch of losers, the Tories.
Reform are slightly ahead in the opinion polls, but it's not far off a three-way split. And we'll see in the Runcorn by-election, you know, what happens. But they want to win seats.
I'm just going to whiz on.
They've only got 4.
I'm going to whiz us on. So coming up next, we have got headliners presented this evening by the wonderful Josh Howie. Josh, there's quite a bit on the front pages today. What are you going to go off on?
We've got a lot of stuff to come. I mean, to be honest, Patrick, you're a very tough act to follow because 2 hours of insight and opinion, and now your audience, they might be a little bit tired. I think you've knackered them out. But what I'm going to say is stick around for the next hour. Don't go to bed yet. Let's do a bubble bath together. I'll give you a little massage. We're going to go through all of tomorrow's newspaper, so you're going to be up on it for tomorrow, OK? We've got great comics. It's going to be a great show, packed.
OK, good stuff. All right, Josh Howie has got all that coming your way. And, yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to my wonderful panel. And as well, you can be in my audience, studio audience, so make sure that you go to sro.com and just look for GB News, of course, and you can be in the live studio audience on a Friday night. So I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. There will still be a few lingering showers for a little while yet, but most places will turn dry overnight, and with some clear skies in the west, it will turn a bit chilly for some. Currently, we have high pressure to the north and to the south, and low pressure both to the east and the west. As a result, we're in something called a col, under which our weather is going to settle down, and so we're seeing most of those showers dying out and clearing away. That being said, there will be quite a bit of cloud overnight across eastern and some southern parts, and this cloud could bring a few spots of rain as well. But under some clearer skies, particularly towards the west, things are going to turn a little chilly. Some prone spots may see a touch of frost, and there could be a few patches of mist and fog developing too. But as we start tomorrow morning then, a fairly cloudy story across many southern areas, perhaps a few glimmers of brightness across Devon and Somerset, and also some parts of Wales. There should be some sunny spells, decent amount of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, northwest England and central and western Scotland, but the further east you are, the greater chance you have of those cloudy skies, and with that, the greater chance of a few spots of rain, but nothing especially heavy. Now, as we go through the day, through the morning into the afternoon, I am expecting some of this cloud to break up and burn away a little bit, but it is going to linger in a few places, so it is going to stay quite grey for some areas, particularly across central southern England, some eastern parts of Scotland. Elsewhere, a bit of sunshine developing, and if you get this sunshine, well, it's not going to feel too bad. Temperatures peaking in the mid to high teens Celsius. But we have some cloudy, wet and blustery weather pushing in from the west later on, and this is going to affect particularly Northern Ireland as we go through Friday, but also fringing into western Scotland and maybe western parts of England and Wales. Further east, a fine day, plenty of decent sunny weather on offer, and that's the case through this weekend. Towards the northwest, there will be some rain at times, drier towards the southeast and warm too.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1.